I think speaking truth clearly and forcefully, always in love, of course. We should never be like, certainly never violent, certainly never hateful, but always forceful with truth in love.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I go ahead, Dom.
go ahead. Sorry. I think going back to those two distinctions between, privatizing religion versus reducing it to politics, I think is in the middle is exactly what you're talking about, Drew, right? Which is in a certain sense the church has become too nice, right? And in that sense, I think that it's exactly the church is irrelevant, right? And if she is trying to pander to the secular world, right, then why in the world would anyone want to become Catholic if they can have everything the church is proposing to them, but just not go to mass on Sunday? So this niceness thing is ridiculous. It's not worked. I mean, the '70s and the '80s, was a perfect example of this, beige version of Catholicism, which is why we need to make Catholicism weird again. I think that's the only way forward. We got to re-weirden Catholicism, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, again, I think especially in young people, this zeal, which is I think is a beautiful and wonderful thing that we need to cultivate, right? If we're not careful, it can become the opposite extreme, which becomes kind of fanaticism, right? Which actually collapses the spiritual sword into the temporal sword. So, what's the answer? Well, I mean, you see it in Jesus Christ, right? Are you going to tell me Jesus was like being a wimp? No, I mean, the cross is literally a statement. He's saying, I am
Mm-hmm.
bearing witness to the truth. I mean, he was very firm. He didn't mince his words. It was very clear, but he didn't raise a hand because his kingdom is not political, but it's what makes this world just and what actually can inform the political sphere. And so I think that the two extremes here are basically this niceness, this kind of pandering, right, which is a kind of caving into the liberal world, right,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is all around us in the church. I mean, we all see it, right? And then there's the opposite extreme that you see sometimes, not always, but in people who are fed up, understandably so, which is like, let's bring back a Catholic state and a king, right? Which, I mean, that might be, I don't know. So the point, though, is that ultimately, what we need to do is to understand that we have to stop mincing our words and pandering to the culture and be
Mm-hmm.
willing to become martyrs. You see, that's not political violence, nor is it niceness and pandering. It's actually called the gospel, right? And so it seems to me that that's the way forward. And what does that look like? What can we do? Because everyone asks me, Dom, you're so critical of all this stuff going on in politics. What's your solution here, right? Well, I think that we have to rediscover what the liturgy is,
Mm-hmm.
because from what the if we understand that the liturgy is the sacrifice of the God man, right? It's an act of love that affirms the dignity of every single human being made in the image of God, right? And that this love is what actually secures the
Mm-hmm.
values that undergird the entire civilization we're a part of. Then if we are able to encounter that reality, when we leave the liturgy, we can act according to that reality, right? There's a saying in the Middle Ages, which is agere sequitur esse, right? Action follows being. So only when we actually rediscover what liturgy is and properly worship God, from that religio will flow the proper ethics that will change our polis, right? And I think we're all worried about gathering together and listening to each other, and that's there's good stuff to that, right? But ultimately, I think we should start talking about the liturgy. What is the liturgy, and rediscover the beauty of the liturgy, the encounter with God, with love, and then from there we can go out and make the world a better place, even if that means by shedding our blood in imitation to the blood shed on the altar. But ultimately, I also think this is why true ecumenism is so important, right? This false ecumenism stuff is just boring and stupid. But true ecumenism is important because a divided Christianity can't bear a witness that is, that is going to speak to the world if we're divided. So
Mm-hmm.
genuine ecumenism, which is going to look like, a turning towards God to bring about unity among us. We're not going to create in an artificial way this unity. I think is something that can actually speak to culture. So my conclusion basically is that stop pandering to the culture. We're very anti-culture right now. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we're weird. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I would say is, you know, rediscover what liturgy is. What
Mm,
is happening on the altar? And that will actually change you, and changed people make a better world, not changing policies necessarily, right?
mm,
And so, and finally, I would say let's reconsider how we go about genuine ecumenism and evangelization without the stupid liberal relativism, nor with the kind of irrational, I don't know, unnecessary antagonism, right? So I mean, the solution is not an easy one, right? But it really is a call to turn towards God and to be humble enough to allow the truth to make a difference instead of trying to fix everything through our little programs. Anyway, that's all I got. Sorry, that was a ramble.
no, that's
That's great.
beautiful.